Sriacha beef jerky, slam dunk brisket, whole smoked tenderloin, and smokehouse beans. We're on fire at the epic JW Marriott Star Pass Resort in Tucson, Arizona. I'm Stephen Raichlen, and this is Project Smoke. For many people, beef is the ultimate barbecue. Just ask a Texan about brisket, or a Californian about tri-tip, or an Englishman about his sacrosanct roast beef. In today's show, I give you really big beef. Up first, Sriracha beef jerky. It starts with a marinade of finely chopped garlic, chopped fresh cilantro, sesame oil for a nutty flavor, fish sauce or soy sauce for that rich umami saltiness, and Thai Sriracha hot sauce for firepower. Whisk these ingredients together to make a smooth and explosively flavorful marinade. Next, the beef. You want a lean cut like top round, which I'm using here. Slice the beef into long, thin strips about 1/4 inch thick and place them on a baking sheet. Beef jerky was originally made as a way to preserve meat without refrigeration. Fat spoils more quickly, which is why jerky is traditionally made with lean beef. As for the origin of the word jerky, many people believe it comes from the Quechua Indian word charqui. Now pour the marinade over the beef strips. Then just use a spoon to spread the marinade over the beef. Now, marinate the jerky in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours, or as long as overnight. When I try to imagine the origins of smoking, I think of prehistoric hunters and gatherers, fresh back from the hunt, hanging thin strips of meat on wooden racks next to a smoky fire. The idea was to dry out the meat, smoke it to preserve it. In other words, beef jerky. To smoke the jerky, I'm using an electric smoker. Electric smokers are great for jerky because you cook it for a long time at a low temperature. It's hard to maintain that low temperature on a charcoal or wood-burning smoker. This smoker is fueled with sawdust discs. I'm using cherry. Lay the strips on the wire rack, leaving about 1/4 inch between each. Place the jerky in the smoker, and we'll grab a second rack and continue to arrange the jerky strips on the rack. Then place the second rack in the smoker, close the smoker. Cooking time about 4 hours, temperature 160 degrees. So here's what the jerky looks like after 4 hours. To me, it has a rustic beauty. It's almost as dark as ebony. It's tender, almost crispy, slow burn from the sriracha, nice nutty flavor from the sesame oil. I never dreamt that jerky could be so complex. What is a smoke ring? The smoke ring is that pinkish red band found just below the surface of barbecue meats. Meat owes its red color to a protein called myoglobin. Expose the meat to air for an extended period and you get a brown pigment called metmyoglobin. Burning wood creates a gas called nitrogen dioxide. This gas binds with the myoglobin and prevents it from browning. Because the nitrogen gas absorbs from the outside in, the smoke ring occurs only on the outside edge of the meat, 1/8 to 1/2 inch deep. Moisture is the secret to maximizing the smoke ring. The dissolved gas can't penetrate the meat very far if the surface dries out. Swabbing your brisket with mop sauce, spraying it with apple cider, or adding a pan of water creates a wetter surface. This helps grab more nitrogen dioxide from the smoke and drives it deeper into the meat. A lot of people are intimidated by brisket, even if they're comfortable with ribs or pork shoulder. Well, watch closely. Here's a Texas Hill Country brisket. That's a slam dunk every time. The brisket is a muscle from the chest of the steer. It is a tough, ornery muscle that requires long, slow cooking to tenderize it. It consists of two parts. There's a fatty cap called the decal. Then you have the brisket flat, which is a much leaner piece of brisket. When you buy brisket at the supermarket, very often it will be a section of the brisket flat. Now, the first step is to start trimming out some of the excess fat. You can see there's a big nugget of fat right here. And we're using grass-fed beef from a small family-owned farm. How your meat is raised, what it eats, is as important as how you smoke it. For the fat covering the top of the brisket, you can trim a little bit of this off too, but you want to leave a good finger-thick layer of fat. The fat will baste the brisket as it melts. Next, the rub, super simple. Coarse salt, freshly ground or cracked black peppercorns, and hot pepper flakes. Mix these ingredients together. This makes a great seasoning mixture for steak. Now here's a cool technique. I'll turn the brisket over and spray the bottom with pickle juice. Just gives you an extra layer of flavor, a little surprising tartness underlying the brisket. Very generously season the bottom of the brisket with the salt, pepper, hot pepper rub, and massage the ingredients into the meat. Now turn the brisket over, spray the top with pickle juice, sprinkle the top of the brisket with more rub, and be sure to coat the brisket with rub on the sides and the ends. Now let me show you the smoker. This is a classic offset barrel smoker. It's made out of 20-inch steel pipe. The smoker has a firebox here, which I have fueled with a bed of charcoal embers. I'm using charcoal briquettes studded with hickory. And to reinforce the smoke flavor, I'll toss a hickory log on the embers. Take this monster brisket, put it in the cook chamber. You want to orient it so the fat side of the brisket faces the firebox. Remember, this is the hotter end. You can use a little extra heat to cook the brisket through. The total cooking time will be 12 to 14 hours. After 10 hours, I'm going to wrap the brisket in butcher paper. Try and keep your temperature around 225 degrees, so you'll need to keep adding logs every hour. After that, let thyme and wood smoke work their magic. Here is the brisket after 10 hours. If you were to take its temperature, it would be about 160 degrees. The target temperature for brisket is 190 to 195 degrees. That's where you get maximum tenderness. But a curious thing happens along the way. When you start cooking your brisket, the temperature goes up and up and up. And then after a few hours, the temperature plateaus, and it may actually go down. It's called the stall in barbecue circles. And what's happening is because of the evaporation of the juices on the surface of the meat, that actually brings the temperature of the brisket down. Nothing to be panicked about. You power through the stall, your brisket will continue to cook. However, the reason I've stopped it after 10 hours is at this point, I like to wrap the brisket in butcher paper. Turn it over. And pull the paper over it. The wrapping keeps the meat moist. Butcher paper breathes, so you'll keep the bark, that crust, nice and crispy. When you buy butcher paper, you want to make sure it's not plastic-lined butcher paper. You'll continue cooking the brisket for another 2 hours or so. You're looking for an internal temperature of 195 degrees. So the brisket has been cooking in its butcher paper wrap for another 2 hours. Let's take a look at it. Oh, man. And that looks awesome. Very tender. But you're not done yet. The last step is to put the brisket in a cooler and let it rest for 1 to 2 hours. This relaxes the meat, and this is the real secret to a tender brisket. Let me show you how to make the barbecue sauce. Start by melting a couple of tablespoons of butter. Add 2 strips of diced bacon and a half of a small diced onion. Cook these ingredients until the onion and bacon are browned. Stir in Dijon mustard. This will give you the spice. And brown sugar. This will give you the sweetness. And your favorite hot sauce. This will give you the heat. Next, add distilled white vinegar and a little water. And finally, as always, a little salt and freshly ground black pepper. Simmer these ingredients together until thick and richly flavored. The smokiness of the bacon will go very nicely with the smoked brisket. The brisket has rested for 2 hours. The first step in carving a brisket is you want to take the decal, this top piece, off the flat. One of the things that makes cooking and carving a brisket so challenging is that there are actually 2 muscles that run in different directions. You can see the decal runs in this direction. By the way, nice smoke ring, huh? And then the flat runs in this direction. So carve across the grain. Look at that. It slices so easily. Great smoke ring. Super moist. Nice. Now the decal. We want to cut off this fat. Then you want to turn this piece over. And these trimmings, these are your burnt ends. They're crusty, fatty, luscious. And then we can start carving the decal. And finally, I'm just dicing up the burnt ends. So here are the 3 parts of the brisket: the sliced flat, the sliced decal, and the burnt ends. Let's see how we did. Take a slice of brisket, slice the decal, get some burnt ends, and you can take some of the bacon mustard sauce. I love brisket. Super nice smoke flavor, very simple spicing. The meat is moist, succulent. If you try the decal, richer, more luscious mouthfeel. And the brisket flat section, a little mustard sauce. It's nice. You know, mustard sauce usually goes with pork in the Carolinas. I like it with brisket. Now you know the secret to a hill country brisket. It'll be a slam dunk for you every time. Every barbecue culture has its version of baked beans. Well, you know Reichlen's rule. If something tastes good sautéed, fried, or baked, it probably tastes even better smoked. So the challenge here was to create a baked bean that you could cook in a smoker. In a heavy pot or Dutch oven, cook bacon over a medium heat to render the fat. Add onions and garlic and cook until the vegetables are soft. Stir in 1 can of kidney beans and 1 can of black beans. Then add brown sugar, molasses, barbecue sauce, and ketchup for sweetness, and Worcestershire sauce, Dijon mustard, dry mustard, and vinegar for spice. Set up your smoker and preheat to 225 degrees. Smoke the beans uncovered until thick and richly flavored, about 2 hours. Smokehouse beans. You'll never look at baked beans quite the same way. Nothing says generosity like a whole beef tenderloin. Yes, it's expensive, but the wow power is off the charts. And if you're a beef addict, it brings immediate intoxication. First thing you want to do is remove this silver skin. Just ride your knife down the fillet. This silver skin is tougher than the rest of the meat. That's why you want to remove it. Then we'll turn it over. Now, there are lumps of fat, and you can trim these off as well. But don't trim off too much fat. The fat will keep the meat moist during cooking. Tie off the tenderloin with butcher string at 2-inch intervals. Tying gives the beef a compact cylindrical form and also gives you a support for hanging the tenderloin. Snip off the ends, come down another 2 inches, and let me show you a cool knot. Loop over once as though you were tying your shoes, then loop over a second time, and that locks the string in place long enough for you to pull it tight and snip off the end. Now for the last tie, fold the tail, that slender piece of tenderloin, over to give the whole tenderloin a uniform thickness so it cooks evenly. Next, generously season the tenderloin on all sides with coarse sea salt and freshly ground black pepper. Then drizzle the tenderloin on all sides with extra virgin olive oil. Remember, beef tenderloin is an extremely lean cut of meat, so the oil helps keep it moist. Roll it around on the board a few times to coat it evenly with oil and work in the salt and pepper. Insert a hook through the head end of the tenderloin, and you're ready for smoking. This is an upright barrel smoker, sometimes called a drum smoker. I filled the coal pan with unlit briquettes, and I have a chimney full of lit coals. Pour them on top of the unlit briquettes. This is a great way to achieve an even heat and a slow burn. And to pump up the smoke flavor, I'm going to add 2 chunks of oak. Now, hang the beef tenderloin from the metal crossbar. Cooking time, about 40 minutes. Target temperature, 125 degrees. Oh, man, is that gorgeous? You can see how tying the beef gave it a nice cylindrical shape. More importantly, look at the gorgeous color on the outside of this. That smoke has laid on the patina of an old master painting. Don't forget to snip off the strings. You can see a little weather's coming into the set of Project Smoke here, but that will not slow us down. Rest the tenderloin 10 minutes. Meanwhile, a vegetable salad you not only can burn, but should burn. Start with a selection of bell peppers and poblano chilies. Arrange them directly on the embers. No grill grate needed. And once the peppers are charred on all sides, transfer them to a metal platter. Remember, they're going to be screaming hot, may even have a few embers attached to the skins, so you don't want to put them on a wood or plastic tray. I told you these peppers were self-smoking. You can see the smoke rising from the skins. Let the peppers rest until they're cool enough to handle, and then with a paring knife, simply scrape off the burnt skin, leaving the sweet, charred, smoky pepper flesh. And if you live in an apartment or a condo and don't have access to an outdoor grill, you can char the peppers right on the burner of your stove. Now, cut the peppers in half and remove the stem, scrape out any seeds, and arrange them on a platter. Now drizzle the roasted peppers with extra virgin olive oil and season with sea salt and freshly ground black pepper. Well, let's cut in, see how we did. Just cut off that end piece. So down at this end, it is more medium, and as we advance to the head, it will become rare. So one nice thing about smoking beef tenderloin in an upright barrel smoker is everybody gets the degree of doneness they prefer. I wish you could smell this incredible smoky aroma. And to complete our feast with beef, I love an Argentinian Malbec. Look at that ruby color. I'll take a slice of pepper.
Hold it, it's crazy. Just give it a second. All right. Okay, it's never been calmer.
20, sir. Just for a brief moment. 20.
And here we go. Ready? And still rolling, still rolling. Pick up the plate again. Pick up the plate one more time. And ready, action.
Okay. And a spoonful of horseradish sauce. The recipe is on our website. And now, the moment I've been waiting for. Wow. You know, I'm not a big beef tenderloin guy. I find the meat's a little mild, but when you smoke it like this, it assumes a totally different character. The peppers. Just by charring the peppers on the embers, you endow them with an incredible smoke flavor. So that's our show on really big beef. Sriracha beef jerky, slam dunk brisket, smoked beef tenderloin, and smokehouse beans. See you next time. Cheers.
Oh, nice umbrella.